Chapter 13. A Night on the Bed with a Zombie Girl. You know that you and Lynn were the current strongest in the world. After all, the strongest human awakener in the country was only at B-rank peak stage, and you have found out about that from your information channels. Even if someone in the world reached the A-rank initial stage, you will still be the strongest since you are currently at A-rank late stage. You know that with the lack of A-rank zombies, it was impossible for someone to reach A-rank late stage and be as powerful as you. After all, it was all due to your zombie virus immunity, purple, talent as well as your viral evolution breathing method that you managed to reach A-rank late stage with just the corpses and zombie viruses of B-rank late stage zombies. That was also the reason why the strongest in the world aside from you and Lynn was only at B-rank peak stage. Even if you and Lynn were the strongest, you and her didn't let down your guard. You know that the world is still dangerous, especially when you haven't discovered the origin of the zombie virus yet. In the past 6 months since the start of the zombie virus, you and Lynn have encountered the dark side of humanity. But the two of you didn't care much since you have each other's company, and the two of you were too focused on becoming stronger. The two of you were so focused on becoming stronger that both of you are still virgins. You and Lynn haven't reached the last base yet. Since Lynn didn't take the initiative, you planned to. It was currently nighttime. But before you could take the initiative, the door of your room opened and Lynn entered. Lynn's golden blonde hair was soaking wet and only a bath towel wrapped around her body. Ding! The host will now be allowed to enter a partial full dive simulation. Will the host enter or not? I didn't expect I would lose my virginity this soon. Alister sighed as he reminisced about the past, feeling sentimental. Although it was 6 months since Lynn and him had developed their relationship in the simulation, for Alister, it was only a few minutes. Nonetheless, he still decided not to regret this event in his life, so he immediately replied to the system, "I will enter partial full dive simulation." Ding! Time has stopped. Entering partial full dive simulation. When Alister heard the system's words, he noticed that his surroundings suddenly became monochromatic. Time seemed to have stopped as he noticed that the world seemed to turn into nothing but gray. The birds in the sky were stuck in place while the leaves that danced in the wind didn't fall on the ground. Before Alister could react, he felt as if an unknown force had enveloped his entire body. When he blinked and opened his eyes, he was brought into a room. The host is currently in partial full dive simulation. Enjoy. After the system notification, Alister started to survey his surroundings. Alister looked by the window and saw that it was currently nighttime. He was currently sitting on a large bed with white bedsheets, and the size of the bed was large enough for more than 2 people to sleep on it. As soon as Alister replaced the self in the simulation, he received memories regarding the time he had spent with Lynn. Of course, memories of fighting, his research on the zombie virus, and the like weren't included. But from his memories, Alister discovered that his self in the simulation would often sleep on the same bed with Lynn. Not that it mattered to him, since his self in the simulation could be considered as his future self. While Alister digested the memories he had received regarding the time he had spent with Lynn, Alister heard the door open and a beautiful figure entered. With long flowing silky golden blonde hair that was slightly wet due to a recent shower and a devilish sexy figure emphasized by the white bath towel wrapped around it, Lynn entered his room as her crimson red eyes expectantly gazed at him with desire. "You don't mind if I sleep with you, right, Alister?" Despite becoming a zombie, Lynn didn't become emotionless and she didn't lose her emotions. Alister could attest to that as he heard Lynn's sweet and soft voice as if it were the melody composed by heaven. Up-to-dated novels on novel.com. Gazing at Lynn's seductive figure, Alister gulped in surprise as he could hardly control himself. After all, he was only a virgin boy and it was too stimulating for him to receive Lynn's seductive offensive. After Lynn entered his room, she started to dry her hair with the white towel that she had brought with her. Alister knew that Lynn had taken a shower just recently, and it could only mean that she was ready to spend the night in bed with him. Otherwise, if that wasn't the case, why would the system ask him to enter in partial full dive simulation? Does this mean that the system already knew the future in the simulation? Or perhaps that as soon as I pressed the simulation button, the result of the simulation was already known by the system? Either way, that doesn't matter. Nothing matters right now as long as I can spend the night with Lynn. After making up his mind, Alister responded to Lynn's question, "Of course, I don't mind." After obtaining Alister's permission, Excitement was shown on Lynn's face as she threw herself to Alister. Alister opened his arms and caught Lynn, hugging her. When Lynn had pounced towards Alister, the bath towel that wrapped around her body had fallen off, leaving her naked. So Alister was currently hugging Lynn, who was in her birthday suit. He felt her cold yet smooth skin as his hands were placed on her back. "I love you, Alister." Seeing that Alister didn't reject her advancement, Lynn kissed Alister and pinned him on the bed. Not wanting Lynn to get the upper hand, Alister repositioned their bodies and he was now on top of Lynn. Both of her hands were bound to his bed. "I love you too, Lynn." Alister and Lynn spent the night with each other as they both lost their precious purity towards each other. You and Lynn have spent the night. The sexual intercourse between a human necrophiliac and a zombie girl has ended. Both of you were satisfied. Chapter 14. Everything that happened in the simulation had happened. Exiting partial full dive simulation. Explore new novels on novelbin.com. Ding! The host has been brought back to the real world. As soon as Alister heard the system's notification, he was brought back to his world. Looking around the familiar room that he had lived in his years after transmigrating into this world, Alister couldn't help but reminisce. To think that after my years of transmigration, I have finally graduated and lost my virginity. Alister was previously staying at his house with Lynn in the zombie world, but after he exited the partial full dive simulation, he was brought back to his world. The experience during the partial full dive simulation was so vivid that Alister still felt the aftertaste of losing his virginity and having sexual intercourse with Lynn. It's quite an unusual experience to have sex with a corpse. Lynn's body and insides felt cold. Sigh, my degeneracy is beyond saving. Although Alister's first time was with a zombie girl, he didn't regret it. After all, during the nightly bed activities he had with Lynn, he had confirmed that Lynn truly loved him. Having such a beautiful girl who was deeply in love with him, how could Alister's heart not be moved? He didn't care even if Lynn was a zombie or not, since what mattered the most to him was that Lynn loved him as much as he loved her. As for other people judging his relationship with Lynn, Alister could care less about the opinions of other people. If they dared to intervene and persecute Lynn and him, Alister would prove why he was the strongest in the zombie world. But wait, is the experience in partial full dive simulation real or not? In other words, have I lost my virginity or not? System? The host doesn't need to worry. There is not much difference between a partial full dive simulation and a full dive simulation, since the former prevents you from dying while the latter would cause you to die if you died in the simulation. The host's life is protected by the system during partial full dive simulation. In other words, everything that the host experienced, whether it was in partial full dive simulation or full dive simulation, has truly happened. Or to be exact, everything in the simulation has happened. It all came down to parallel worlds and such. But the host doesn't need to worry, since the world in the simulation is reset whenever the host dies. After receiving that answer from the system, Alister was faced with another question. So does that mean, if I died in the simulation and the world is reset, will Lynn forget our experience? For the first time in his life, Alister felt troubled. He didn't want Lynn to forget their love for each other. Is this the pain of all regressors? Your lover forgets about you since you came back to the time before you and your girlfriend became lovers. Although it isn't impossible for Lynn and I to become lovers again as long the self in the simulation follows that route again, it is painful to see that I have retained memories of the past timeline, yet my lover forgot all about it. Alister was previously happy that he had lost his virginity and spent a love-making session with Lynn before, but now, he felt deep melancholy. He didn't expect that this was the problem he would face after enjoying such a pleasant time with Lynn. The host doesn't have to worry. There is a talent related to that known as Remember Me, Blue. It allows the host to use it on his target, and that target remembers everything about the host in all timelines. If the host wants to, the system can do the host a favor and allow the host to have that talent in the next simulation of 5 talent draws. The host must get at least an A-grade simulation score in the host's current simulation. Otherwise, even the system can't interfere much with the host's talent draws if the host doesn't get an A-grade simulation score. Then please add that talent in the next simulation. I am confident that I can get an A-grade simulation score in this second round of simulation. Alister regained hope after hearing the system's solution. Although he didn't know why the system bothered to help him, he didn't care much as long as the end result was good. The process didn't matter much as long as the result was good. After Alister came to an agreement with the system, he continued the simulation. After you spent the night with Lynn and your relationship had gone up another level. The two of you became more conscious of your love for each other. But it also allowed you and Lynn to remember the importance of having power in this world, or else the lack of power will allow others to intervene in your love life. Because of that, you and Lynn had decided to focus on becoming stronger. Chapter 15. I will make it up to Lynn in the next simulation. Another month has passed and it has been 7 months since the zombie apocalypse started. Lynn is currently at a rank late stage while you are at a rank peak stage. You have noticed that you have hit the bottleneck in your evolution. Reaching the S rank was almost impossible from your estimations. Even if you drank the blood and ate the flesh of A-rank zombies, it still wasn't enough for you to break the bottleneck in your evolution. You have started to doubt whether S rank even existed and whether it was possible for a life form to reach that level. It was as if you had reached the limit of evolution. Lynn had noticed your worries. She even proposed to let you kill her so that you can eat her flesh and drink her blood in hopes of becoming an S-rank awakener. She said that she didn't mind sacrificing her life for you as long as you became invincible in this world. New N0VEL chapters are published on N0V, E, LB, I, N, co per meter. If not for the fact that you could reset the world after your death, you would have dismissed Lynn's suggestion. But since you can reset the world, you contemplated whether to do it or not. Even after noticing that you didn't dismiss her suggestion and still contemplated whether to kill her or not, Lynn's affection for you still didn't waver and she wasn't testing your love for her or anything like that. She had spent the most time with you and she realized how much you love her. So at this time, Lynn knew that even if you killed her, you must have a reason for it. You further realized how much Lynn loved you. It was to the point she was even willing to sacrifice herself just for your sake. You were moved by Lynn's love for you. But in the end, your heart felt like 1,000 needles were pierced into it as you spoke. I'm sorry, Lynn. I will make it up to you in the next timeline after I reset this world. Hearing your words, Lynn didn't know what you meant by next timeline or world reset, but she still smiled and agreed. It was the last time you saw Lynn's smile as for the first time in this world, you unsheathed your steel sword from your scabbard. After unsheathing your sword, you utilized your swordsmanship to kill Lynn as painlessly as possible, decapitating her in an instant. Before Lynn's head could fall on the ground, you caught it with your air manipulation. Even after she died, Lynn's smile was still present on her face. You gazed at Lynn's smile that was still present on her corpse. You didn't shed any tears, but deep inside, your heart felt excruciating agony and grief. At this moment, you felt that the viral energy in your body became rampant. The extreme emotions of grief, pain, agony, and melancholy had riled up the viral energy in your body. Even before you could eat Lynn's flesh and drink her blood, you realized and discovered a new method of evolution. It was none other than to perform self-harm to stimulate the zombie viruses in your body. Because of the intense emotional pain you felt, the zombie virus in your body was extremely stimulated and it kept on producing waves of surging viral energy. You have successfully broken through and become the first S-rank awakener in this world. You didn't want to waste Lynn's sacrifice, so you ate her flesh and drank her blood. It allowed you to further consolidate your evolution rank and you broke through again. You are now at the S-rank intermediate stage. You're undoubtedly the strongest in this world and you are now invincible. But this didn't bring you any happiness or sadness. You felt that there was no point in living without Lynn. Hey, what's the point of becoming the strongest if I can't enjoy it with Lynn? Life without Lynn is meaningless. You let out a self-depreciating laugh as you mobilized the air around you. Don't worry, Lynn. I will keep my word. I will accompany you again. You spoke your last words as a wind blade penetrated through your neck and decapitated you. You died. Ding, the simulation has ended. Simulation score is A+. Loading rewards, choose 4 from these rewards. 1. Comprehensive strength obtained during the simulation plus air manipulation superpower plus combat experience. 2. Knowledge and research of the zombie virus plus viral energy usage method plus viral evolution breathing method plus memories and life experience in the simulation. 3. Necrophiliac green. 4. Zombie virus immunity purple. 5. Swordsman blue. although it was only a simulation and he read all of it through the text displayed on the system screen. Alister seemed to feel and resonate with the emotions of the self in the simulation. Sigh, I'll make it up to Lynn in the next simulation. Alister's current mood was quite heavy. He knew that what the self in the simulation did was very irrational. After all, he could have gone on a killing spree in the zombie world and eaten all of the awakeners and evolved zombies to reach the S-rank late stage. There might also be the possibility of finding out the mastermind of the zombie apocalypse, but if that happened, then he would receive an S grade as his simulation score. If he received S grade, even Alister wasn't confident that he could complete the world since he knew that his strength was still insufficient to deal with the mastermind of the zombie apocalypse. If he died in the full dive simulation, he would die in the real world as well. The self in the simulation must have known about that, so instead of aiming to reach S-rank late stage and confronting the mastermind of the zombie apocalypse, he committed suicide. Unless Alister was confident that he could complete the zombie world, he would rather not get an S-grade simulation score. The self in the simulation might have also known that I badly need power right now or else I can't survive in this world. I must make it up to Lynn in the next simulation. Otherwise, I won't forgive myself. After making up his mind, Alister started to choose the rewards that he would receive in the simulation.